Okay, so good day everyone. Today we're gonna be discussing anti-dysrhythmic drugs, anti-hyperlipidemics, and our anticoagulants, antiplatelets, and thrombolytics. Okay, starting with our anti-dysrhythmic drugs. Now these are drugs that restore cardiac rhythm back to normal. What we mean when we say dysrhythmia? Okay, dysrhythmia is that it is an abnormal or irregular rate and rhythm of the heart. Ayan. Caused by a disruption in electrical impulses. As I mentioned before, our heart uses these electrical impulses in order to create what we call our relaxation and contraction. Now, I'm gonna show you a few, as I mentioned before, I'm gonna show you a few patterns or ECG patterns. Usually this is monitored by ECG, manggod. Monitored by ECG. I'm gonna show you some patterns, that will show you what a dysrhythmia looks like. Now here, class, first let's discuss the normal. Now our normal rhythm is called our sinus rhythm. Okay? Typically, class, the sinus rhythm must have a complete waveform. Meaning to say, the P wave must be present, the QRS complex must be present, and then the T wave must be present. Okay? And it should also look like this. Okay, this is a normal ECG. Typically, the sinus rhythm is around 60 to 100 beats per minute. 60 to 100 beats per minute, as we already know, is the normal heart rate. So every time the heart contracts, one of these patterns will be seen in your ECG every time the heart contracts. So let's discuss them one by one, starting with our atrial depolarization. Atrial depolarization basically means the contraction of the atrium. Okay, contraction of the atrium, and that is represented by our P wave. Our QRS complex, okay, represents our ventricular depolarization, meaning to say this is the contraction of the ventricles. And then the T wave is ventricular repolarization, meaning to say this is the relaxation of the ventricles. Now this is our normal rhythm. Okay, this is our normal rhythm, and each time the heart beats, normally it should look like this in the ECG. However, class, there are what we call dysrhythmias, or abnormal rate and rhythm when it comes to our ECG. So let's give you an example. Let's look at this one, class. Okay, let's look at this one. This is what we call our atrial fibrillation. As you can see, it's very easy to determine the QRS complex. Very easy to see the QRS complex. However, it is indeterminate to determine which of these are the P waves and which of these are the T waves. So it's very indeterminate. It means to say that there is a problem with conduction. Not conduction, with the electrical impulses. Problem with our electrical impulses, because the firing here is very, very random. Okay? Then as you can also see, some of our heart rates or some of our contractions are very consistent. Like for example, the intervals between these three are very, very consistent. Okay? However, sometimes it becomes rather inconsistent like this. And this is a sign of what we call an irregular rhythm. Okay? Irregular rhythm. let's take another example, class. Let's look at, let's say, ventricular fibrillation. As you can see, class, no, it is very indeterminate. Meaning to say, class, you do not know which of them is the QRS. You do not know which of them is the P wave. You do not know which of them is the T wave. It's very, very indeterminate. Okay, this is our ventricular fibrillation. This one, no? Ventricular fibrillation. Yan. No? And that is a big problem, no? Because most often than not, our dysrhythmias, let's put it here, our dysrhythmias often cause a decrease in either, listen to me, they will often cause a decrease in either cardiac output, okay, or a decrease in blood pressure, which in turn decreases what we call our perfusion. Okay, so it's either gonna decrease the cardiac output or decrease the blood pressure, which in turn decreases perfusion. Okay, now perfusion, no, what that means is it is oxygenation to the tissues. Ayan. Okay, ito sa safety. Sige, let's continue. To illustrate this point now properly, this table I have put it here. Our antidysrhythmics, mga good class, there are 4 classes: class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4. Okay, now I am putting this table here, and the way I have made my PowerPoint is very simple, in that it is very what we call contained. No, contained is the correct word. Meaning to say, class, even if you just read the PowerPoint, you don't even watch the lecture, it's all there, no? It's all there. I will add little input na lang, and I will discuss a little bit, no? But basically, I made it so that it feels like it's just notes. Okay? Another thing about this, no, is this is I'm putting this table here, no, as a guide or as a reference, because what will happen, Manggod, is this. If I tell you something like the sodium channel blockers, will be used for, let's say, atrial and ventricular dysrhythmias, chances are you do not understand, or you will not know yet, no, what these are. So it's kind of what we call it's kind of wasted or pointless to discuss, no, the indications yet. So I am putting this here so that when you reach your medical surgical nursing, you will have a guide. But today I want to focus mostly, for these drugs, I want to focus mostly on what we call our nursing considerations. But before we reach that, now let's talk about how these drugs work. Okay? So yes, balik tayo sa drawing board. Now this is our repolarization and depolarization graph, no? I've already discussed this before in the previous videos, but basically, no, this is the graph that represents the relaxation phase. This is the graph that represents the relaxation phase. And then this is the graph that also represents the depolarization, or what we call the contraction. Repolarization to contraction. Now, in our, what we call our y-axis, we have here voltage. Okay, voltage. Now, if you remember from our previous discussion, if the inside of the cell or the intracellular space becomes positively charged, then the heart will contract. Okay? If, however, it becomes negatively charged, then it will relax, no? As you can see here, I have put a line. It is a line, no? So every time, class, our heart is at this point under the line, then it means to say that it is negatively charged. Okay? Negatively charged. So it is in the point of relaxation. While if it goes up, it is in the point now wherein it's contraction, no? Or going into contraction. Now, let's discuss them. I've discussed this already. Starting with step number 4. Step number 4, class, is when norepinephrine binds. Norepinephrine binds with the beta 1 receptors, triggering the start of what we call depolarization. Okay? Remember, depolarization is contraction. No? So what happens is the voltage of the heart, or the voltage of the cells or inside of the myocytes, no, slowly goes up. No, becoming positive. It's becoming positive. Now at phase 1, sodium will enter the cell while potassium will exit. Potassium will exit the cell. Okay? Now what happens there is this. If sodium enters the cell, remember, calcium will follow, and calcium will also enter the cell. No? So if calcium enters the cell, okay, if calcium enters the cell, then the cell, the inside of the cell is maxed and the voltage peaks, meaning to say mo na ni siyang time wherein it becomes positively charged, no, or truly positively charged. Now once the voltage peaks, class, this is the time where the heart will actually contract, no? This is the time where the heart will actually contract, no? After contracting, class, the heart, or the voltage inside the cells of the heart, no, suddenly slowly goes down. Suddenly goes down because most of the voltage has already been used for contraction. And when that happens, class, potassium re-enters the cell. It will re-enter the cell, and sodium and calcium will go out, no? Sodium and calcium will go out, no? And once that happens, this will turn the cell, or the inside of the cell, the intracellular space, back to negative, beginning what we call our repolarization, otherwise known as our relaxation, diba? Relaxation. So basically, class, the heart went from relaxed, listen to me, follow the yellow, no, follow the yellow. The heart basically went from relaxed all the way up to positively charged, and then suddenly contract. After contracting, the voltage goes down and down until the electrolytes go back to their original places, and it starts relaxation again. And remember, this is a cycle, no? So the next part will also be a contraction, diba? The next part will also be a contraction. Yan, no? So that is a very simple what we call simple diagram that represents this repolarization and depolarization cycle, or the relaxation contraction cycle. Now let's move back to our original board. Yan. So we have class 1, class, which is our sodium channel blockers. This will block the sodium channel, inhibiting sodium movement into the cell, prolonging repolarization. Now, here is how it works, no? Let's go back here. Basically, class, what happens there is something like this, no? Our sodium channel blockers, as the name implies, it will block sodium from entering the cell. It will block sodium from entering the cell. And if you block sodium, remember, if you block sodium from entering the cell, calcium will also not enter the cell. Meaning to say, class, what happens to the graph is it remains like this. No, it remains negatively charged because it is unable to turn positively charged because there is no calcium. So that is the action of our sodium channel blockers at the Aries, in a short, no, discussion or a mindset. It typically hits phase 1. Now, we have 3 classes of sodium channel blockers. I'm just gonna put it here, sort of like a list. No, ako lang siya i-enumerate. We have our class 1A. These are types of drugs that have a moderate action, and they slow down conduction and prolong repolarization. Slow down conduction and prolong relaxation. No, these are the drugs that we call our procainamide and our quinidine. Okay, it's crucial, class, that the conduction is slowed down, because if you slow down conduction, it will also slow down the patient's heart rate. And remember, I want you to remember, the problem with our dysrhythmias is oftentimes the heart rate is either too fast or too slow, or the rhythm is too irregular, no? So this is very effective at lowering our heart rate. Okay? And when you prolong relaxation, mga good class, if you prolong relaxation, then there is more time for the heart to recover. For recovery. Ayan. Now, let's continue. Next is our class 1B. This is our weak action. No? This slows down conduction as well and shortens repolarization. Our weak action drugs, no, include our lidocaine and our mixelitine hydrochloride. Now, our mixelitine hydrochloride class, our lidocaine, no, the first time you will see our lidocaine in practice is not in a cardiac setting but rather in a what we call in the delivery room. You will see this in the delivery room. Nga naman, why? Because this is also an anesthetic. Typically, this is used as an epidural anesthesia. Meaning to say, class, they will inject this in the spine to create what we call, or to promote what we call a painless delivery of the baby. No? Painless delivery of the baby. So, mo ni siya, class, usually you will see this as a anesthetic first. But this is a weak action antidysrhythmic sodium channel blocker. And since the lidocaine oftentimes crosses the what we call blood-brain barrier, it has a load of side effects, including but not limited to, and most importantly, our neurotoxicity. Now, when we say neurotoxicity, it has the following signs and symptoms: headaches, dizziness, loss of hearing, hallucinations, and loss of proprioception. When we say proprioception, class, it refers to a sense of knowing bodily part location. Okay? It's like right now, no? If you ask your own body, where is my arms? You can answer that. That is proprioception. No, even if you don't know, or even if you can't see, if you put your arms around your back, no? Even if you can't see your arms, you know that your arms are behind your back. That is proprioception. Okay? And next is our strong action, class. Our strong action is it will prolong conduction with no effect on repolarization. So repolarization stays the same but prolongs conduction. What happens, mga good class, if you prolong contraction is that it also slows down the heart rate. It also slows down the heart rate because if you prolong something, it takes a long time, no, for the conduction or the electrical impulses to reach the ideal setting. No, or the ideal cells, no? So this will include our flecainamide and our what we call propafenone. And here is our what we call nursing considerations. Now, for each and every, listen to me, ha? For each and every cardio drug, I want you to put a big star on this, class. You should always monitor the patient's blood pressure and heart rate. However, class, for what we call our antidysrhythmias, it is also crucial to monitor the patient's ECG pattern. This is to check the effectiveness of the drug. Okay? This is to check the effectiveness of the drug. Right. Now, another thing you need to monitor about sodium channel blockers is that you need to monitor the patient's platelets and white blood cells, no? Platelets and white blood cells. Now, typically, the platelets is around, as I will mention this later, 150,000 to 450,000 cells per microliter. And white blood cells is usually around 4,500 to 11,000, if I remember. Okay, 11,000. I think it's the units ano wait. Yeah, cells per microliter. It's still cells per microliter. Okay. Ito nilisa no, plus it's not ml. Cells per microliter. Ayan. No? So, what happens mga good class is if you take a sodium channel blocker, it will cause what we call bone marrow suppression. Okay? Or it will slow down the bone marrow or the production of these blood products. So, what happens there is usually it will decrease the platelets and decrease the white blood cells. Now, if you decrease the platelets, remember, there is a risk for bleeding. Ayan. No? And if you decrease the white blood cells, there is a risk for infection. So that's the reason why, class, no? You need to watch out for signs of fever, rashes, sore throat. These are signs and symptoms of what we call our infection. Okay? We also need to check for the ANA or anti-nuclear antibody. Anti-nuclear antibody. This is a test for autoimmune diseases. Okay? I want to highlight that, autoimmune diseases, no? Autoimmune diseases are diseases wherein the immune system attacks your own body. The immune system attacks your own body. Now, why is this relevant, class? No, this is a blood test, This is a blood test. Why is this relevant? Ang ato magong ANA, our sodium channel blockers tend to cause what we call SLE or systemic lupus erythematosus. This is a autoimmune disease characterized by chronic systemic inflammation. No? So we have to monitor, no, for the possibility of SLE, and we need to do that by checking our ANA or anti-nuclear antibody test. Okay? Next is our beta blockers. As I mentioned before, these are the drugs that end in ulol. No, we are going to discuss them once again in our antihypertensives, but let's talk about it here, no? As I mentioned before, this will block the B1 and the B2 receptors. Now, it has three major effects. I want you to listen, The first is a negative dromotropic, a negative chronotropic, inotropic, and a negative chronotropic. What I mean by this is this makes our beta blockers very versatile, no? As we know, this is an antihypertensive. Okay? This can also be used as an anti-anginal. And this is also used as a anti-dysrhythmic. Very versatile. It has lots of good functions, no? So why is that the case? Okay, why is that the case? Now, what happens, mga good class, is this. These three effects, no, contribute to a lot of therapeutic value. For example, class, if you decrease the conduction velocity, if you decrease the conduction velocity, what happens, mga good, is you are slowing down electrical impulses. Meaning to say, class, no, if you slow down electrical impulses, they are very good as an anti-dysrhythmic drug, no? Okay, if you're gonna slow down electrical impulses. If you slow down cardiac automaticity, or if you slow down what we call our contractions, no? Or if you slow down or weaken contractions, no? What happens there is that it will, listen to me, decrease oxygen demand of the heart. Okay, decrease oxygen demand of the heart, making it very good as a drug for our making it very good as an anti-anginal drug. Okay, and if there is decreased heart rate and BP, obviously this makes it very good as an antihypertensive. Ayan. Okay, very good antihypertensive, no? That's our beta blockers. So we have two types of beta blockers. First is our metoprolol, no? cardioselective. When we say cardioselective class, these are the beta blockers that only block B1, while our non-selective beta blockers will block both B1 and B2. Now remember, our B1 is usually found in our hearts, while our B2 is found in our lungs, no? So our propranolol and carvedilol tend to have what we call a pulmonary effect, whereas our metoprolol and atenolol tend to only have a cardiac effect. Now, among the two, it is preferred to use our cardioselective for antidysrhythmic, di ba? As an antidysrhythmic, because of what we will discuss later, no? There is a tendency, Manggod class, there is a tendency that if you use a non-selective beta blocker, they have a side effect called bronchoconstriction. Okay, bronchoconstriction. That is a major side effect, no? That's because of the involvement of the lungs. We don't want that, class, no, when we are only trying to slow down electrical impulses. So that's why metoprolol and atenolol is preferred, no, for what we call our dysrhythmias. Okay? For our dysrhythmias. Now, what are our nursing considerations? Obviously, no, we need to anticipate fatigue and weakness. Fatigue and weakness is due to a decrease in blood pressure, no? So, this is a common but normal side effect. And what we need to do is we just need to disclose to the patient or tell the patient lang. Okay? Disclose to the patient and then promote rest. Okay? Promote rest periods specifically. Ayan. Okay? We also need to anticipate erectile dysfunction. Erectile dysfunction is also a normal side effect. This is when a decrease in BP will decrease blood flow to the penis, making their penis unable to erect. Okay, now what you need to do in this instance, class, is you need to disclose to the patient using a straightforward approach. Okay? Meaning to say, class, you do not use fancy words. You do not use fancy words. You do not what we call sweeten. You do not sweeten your words. No? If you're gonna tell them this, it's much better that you're gonna use a straightforward. Inaon din mo sila, sir. Unfortunately, sir, no, one of the main side effects of this drug is it will cause erectile dysfunction. However, you have to keep note, that erectile dysfunction is temporary. It's not permanent. Okay. Once you stop taking the drug, your erection comes back, no? It's important, no, that you will tell your patient, basin makuyawan sila ba? Hold the heart rate, hold if the heart rate is less than 60, because as I mentioned, this drug has a negative chronotropic effect and it will decrease, no, the heart rate. If the patient's heart rate is 40 and then you give beta blockers, then maybe it will lower even more, no, mahimo siyang 20, no. Do not give this to asthmatic patients, because asthmatic patients tend to have a risk for bronchoconstriction. Okay, they have a risk for bronchoconstriction at any time. Now, if they take beta blockers, specifically non-selective ones, as I mentioned, the ones that also block B2, it can cause bronchoconstriction. So if you add it to your risk for bronchoconstriction in asthma, then there is a high chance that their airway will close, no, musirado ang ilang airway. Okay. Next is our potassium channel blocker. This will block the potassium channel, retaining the potassium inside the cell, prolonging the recovery period. So it's like this, no? It's like our sodium channel blocker. But this time, instead of blocking sodium, instead of blocking, no, sodium, wait, okay, tukar akong kuan, class, pagka-usi, no, no, instead of blocking sodium, Our potassium channel blocker will block potassium from exiting out. Now, if you block potassium, no, from exiting out, if you block potassium from exiting the cell, then what happens there is sodium will not be able to enter. And if sodium is unable to enter, then potassium and calcium is also not able to enter. Now, I want you to keep in mind where I put this, no? It's very early in the phase of what we call our cycle. Very early. Kaya to seryoso na. Very early. Meaning to say, class, no? Meaning to say, this has a very fast effect because how early it affects the cycle, no? Usually this is given via IV and subcutaneously, and because of its very fast effect, this is mostly used for emergency treatment of ventricular distress. I want you to put that in a big star, class, ha? The drugs that we are gonna discuss here is our amiodarone and sotarone. No, amiodarone and sotarone. Now, because they are emergency drugs, no, oftentimes you will find this in your crash cart. Okay? When I say crash cart, because it is the cart, no? It's like a cabinet found in the hallways of our hospital that is full of emergency supplies. Okay? Full of emergency supplies. Now, if there is a sudden code, no, or a cardiac arrest, that happens in the hospital, nurses, no, will bring this crash cart to the site of the emergency so that they will have a lot of what we call materials and drugs available immediately. And because of that, no, you will find oftentimes amiodarone in this crash cart. Okay, so let's continue. What's our nursing management for our potassium channel blockers? It's very simple, class. We need to monitor for a decrease in BP, heart rate, and changes in ECG, as I mentioned. Watch out for photosensitivity, as I've mentioned before. No, photosensitivity is what we do is we avoid UV light. So basically, we have to wear sunglasses. What else? No, we have to what we call stay indoors. No, pwede ra po tayo ngayon stay indoors. No, sunblock, di ba? Sunblock. Okay. What you also need to watch out for thyroid toxicity and hepatotoxicity. Both of these are adverse effects. Okay. Typically, class, thyroid toxicity manifests itself as a decrease in metabolic rate, which in turn decreases overall metabolism. Now, if you still don't know what metabolism means, it is the cellular processes of the body. So, if you decrease metabolism, you decrease everything. Okay, listen to me, ha. If you decrease metabolism, you decrease everything. No? So, this is commonly seen as weakness and fatigue and cold skin. No? This is commonly seen as that. No? We also have to monitor for hepatotoxicity. Okay, hepatotoxicity. We also need to avoid giving grapefruit juice. Lagyan mo yan ng malaking star, class, ha, because grapefruit juice tends to have an enzyme that increases the effect of amiodarone. And because of that, class, it might cause an overdose. Ayan. So, avoid giving grapefruit juice. Okay? And then our class 4 is this. Our calcium channel blockers. Our calcium channel blockers blocks calcium influx, thereby decreasing excitability and contractility. As I mentioned before, contractility, it will decrease contractility. So basically, class, it blocks the entry of calcium into the cell. And if you block it, class, it prevents what we call our contraction or the positive polarity of our cardiac myocyte, So if we block the calcium, it will prevent contraction. Now, there are two types of calcium channel blockers. We have our non-dihydropyridine and our dihydropyridine based, Our non-dihydropyridine class oftentimes controls blood pressure and heart rate, while our dihydropyridine based only controls blood pressure. Keep that in mind, class, because oftentimes we use our dihydropyridines based as antihypertensives and antihypertensives only. Okay? If we are talking about antidysrhythmics, we are oftentimes using our non-dihydropyridine because of its ability to control the patient's heart rate. As I mentioned before, gusto ta nga munaog, we want their heart rate to decrease. Okay? Now, most of the time, our calcium channel blockers are named Dipin, no? Like our amlodipine and nifedipine, but not all follow this convention. Our verapamil and diltiazem are non-dihydropyridine. So, most often than not, they will not follow the naming convention, no? So, let's proceed to our nursing considerations. Okay? We need to monitor the patient's blood pressure and heart rate. I want to keep in mind no blood pressure because these are very potent. Okay? These are very potent antihypertensive. So they will decrease good. They will truly decrease your blood pressure. We want to hold this drug, no? Hold this drug. Lagyan mo yan ng malaking star class. Hold this drug if the systolic blood pressure, okay, systolic BP is less than 90 millimeters of mercury. Okay, so if we are gonna get a BP like this, 90 over 20 over 120 over 90, then systolic is the top number. Okay, so ano na siya class. When we say systolic class, it is the highest pressure during systole or contractions. Okay, the highest pressure during contraction, highest arterial pressure. When we say diastole, it is the lowest pressure. Okay, during diastole or relaxation. Okay, it is the lowest pressure during relaxation. Okay, now we have to watch out for peripheral edema. What we need to do is we need to elevate the patient's legs to promote drainage. We need to watch out for headache, no? What we need to do is promote rest. Now, peripheral edema, balik ta diri ha. This is when there is swelling on arms and legs. Okay, swelling on arms and legs. Okay, we also have to watch out for another side effect, which is constipation. What we need to do is increase dietary fiber. Fiber is often seen in foods like wheat, no? Like cereal, oats, oatmeal, cake, bread, no? Increase oral fluid intake, and then encourage mobility or encourage the patient to walk, because walking increases peristalsis, increasing the movement inside your GI tract, no? Avoid grapefruit juice, because it has the same effect as our potassium channel blockers, in that grapefruit juice potentiates or increases the effect of our calcium channel blockers. And then this is contraindicated for heart failure, as I mentioned in the previous video. Now, because heart failure, the main problem with heart failure is that the heart cannot or has impaired contraction. Okay, and because of that, no, we don't want to give a drug that stops or decreases contractility, diba? We don't want to give a drug that stops or decreases contractility. That's the reason why, class, for heart failure, we give them digoxin. Okay, because digoxin is a positive inotropic agent. Positive inotropic, meaning to say it makes the contractions stronger. Okay, ako na-delete ko kasi mga pamilya. Yan. And with that, no, let's proceed to our anti-hyperlipidemic drugs. Anti-hyperlipidemic drugs, no? These are drugs that are used to decrease cholesterol levels. Now, why is cholesterol levels here in our cardio? Isn't it supposed to be GI? And the reason for that is because of one thing, or one key thing, atherosclerosis. Okay, atherosclerosis. Now, atherosclerosis, if you've watched the previous video, no, it is the presence of cholesterol plaques or atherosclerotic plaques or fatty plaques. Ngayon na lang, fatty plaques na lang, no, in your blood vessels. Okay, like this. Ato na siya ibutang dira class. So, atherosclerosis class, these are fatty cholesterol plaques that impede blood flow. Basically, no, if your cholesterol is very high, fat tends to, no, clump together in your blood vessels. It tends to clump together in your blood vessels. Now, this is very bad, class, because if you remember from our previous discussion, atherosclerosis can lead to what we call our angina. And it will also lead into what we call, eventually, it will also lead into what we call our myocardial infarction, also known as a heart attack, no? So, class, our angina and myocardial infarction are categorized as what we call our coronary artery diseases. Okay? Diseases. CAD, or otherwise known as our CAD. That is a big problem, class, remember, because if blood flow is impeded, no? If blood flow is impeded because of the presence of this, what we call atherosclerosis, there will be a decrease in cardiac output. And because of that, class, no, there is a decrease in oxygen to tissues. Okay? Now, if this is in your coronary artery, then there is a decreased oxygenation to the heart, no, which leads to angina and eventually infarction, no. So it's like that. That's the reason why we are discussing cholesterol in your what we call cardio drugs. Okay. Now, what is hyperlipidemia? As I mentioned before, no, it is an increase in cholesterol levels, an increase. At least what diri ha? Increase in cholesterol levels. Okay? Typically, it is characterized, class, as an increase in your LDL and a decrease in your HDL. Okay? Now, do not forget the LDL mo ni siya ang atong gitawag na bad cholesterol, while the HDL is the good cholesterol, no? So in that sense, no, we are increasing the bad cholesterol and decreasing the HDL, or the good cholesterol. Now, for you to not forget, class, no, I have a mnemonic for this, class, no. Remember, class, L, no, L, lapidario, di ba? Lapidario, ayan, no, equals bad, di ba? Ayan, oh. H, no, H is heaven, which is good. Ayan. So that's a way, you know, that you won't forget, no, the HDL versus the LDL. So basically, it's like this. Oh, if normally, if there's no or very little cholesterol, the blood is able to flow. However, as time goes on and the cholesterol levels increase, it will clump up around the blood vessel, and eventually, gamay na lang siya space. There's very little space for blood to flow. Okay? Now, let's talk about our drugs, no? We have 4 drug classifications, class, our bile acid sequestrants, our HMG-CoA reductase inhibitors, which is a very long name, so let's just call them statins, no? And our cholesterol absorption inhibitors and fibrates. These 2, class, I want you to read on them personally. Okay, I will include this in the exam, but read on them personally because no, these are very simple drugs, and most often than not, they are not used for cardio. They are used for GI problems. Okay, and because of that, class, now I will discuss this in your GI in the finals. Okay, but these 2 mo man siya common gamiton good for cardio cases. So let's discuss, no? Bile acid sequestrants, they will bind into bile. Now, what is the purpose of bile? No, bile, class, tends to emulsify fats, or otherwise known as your cholesterol. No, they will emulsify fat or cholesterol. When we say emulsify, class, no, they will mix with fat to make fat easily digestible. Yan, they will mix with fat to make it easily digestible. Now, when we say bind, no, with bile, our bile acid sequestrants, the action of this is like this, no? Our cholestyramine, cholesevelam, and cholestypol will bind with bile. Magsumpay sila, they will mix with bile in order to make the bile insoluble. Listen to me, ha? Our cholestyramine, cholesevelam, and cholestypol will bind or combine with bile itself. The bile is very high in cholesterol because it emulsify the cholesterol, di ba? It will combine with the bile in order to make a mixture that is insoluble. When we say insoluble, class, dili siya ma-dissolve, cannot be dissolved, no? Cannot be dissolved, no? Now, if something is not able to be dissolved, then it cannot be absorbed, no? So, the ending there, class, is this. If the fat cannot be absorbed, it is then excreted in your feces. Imo na lang siya ikalibang, excreted in your feces. Now, because there is a high concentration of your bile inside your feces, there is a high concentration of fat inside your feces, then the common side effect is our yellowish stool and foul-smelling stool. No, lagyan niyo ng malaking star, class, ha? That is a big sign of fat in your stool. Ayan. Wag na sad. Oh, ayan, no? So what do we need to consider? We need to instruct the patient to swallow, do not crush or chew the drug, because these drugs are enteric coated, and we want these drugs, now listen to me, we want these drugs to reach the small intestine, okay? That's why we put an enteric coat so that it won't be absorbed by your stomach, okay? Administer before meals. This ensures absorption due to the decrease in hydrochloric acid. Watch out for constipation and GI upset. This is a common side effect. And then instruct the patient to have small, frequent feedings, usually 5 times a day. Now, this is ideal, mga good class, ideal for digestion. Okay? This is ideal for digestion. 3 large meals, mga good, like what we usually do is very bad because it takes a long time to digest. It takes a long time to digest. Sige. Next is our HMG-CoA reductase inhibitors, also known as our what we call statins. Okay, now listen to me, ha. As I mentioned before, the problem with hyperlipidemia is that there is increased LDL and decreased HDL. Our statins, their action is to reverse this, no? How it does that is this, no? It blocks the completion of LDL. Ito sa lilison na so that you can read properly. It blocks the completion of LDL cholesterol synthesis. Meaning to say, it will stop LDLs from being created. And because of this process, no, HDL increases slightly. Because there is very few LDL anymore, the HDL will tend to increase. So, ang ending, anak class, is this is the effect. It will decrease the LDL by stopping the production of LDL. And because of that stop process, the HDL will simultaneously increase. That's a good thing. No, that's a good thing. Now, commonly, these are used for patients with coronary artery disease, even if they are still suspected. Meaning to say, class, even if they don't have the symptoms yet, as long as they are at risk. If they are at risk for coronary artery disease, we often use statins as preventive drugs, no? They are preventive drugs, no? An example of our statins class is our atorvastatin, fluvastatin, lovastatin, and our simvastatin. No, our statins. They are very common drugs usually here in the Philippines. What do we need to consider about these drugs? Number 1, hold if the patient has any, I want to keep that in mind, any liver disease. So it doesn't matter, class, if it is liver cirrhosis, if it is hepatitis, do not give this drug to those patients because this is hepatotoxic. Caution if the patient is pregnant because this is pregnancy category C and D. So very, very dangerous, moderate to high risk for our fetus. And then obtain a baseline weight, no? How do we obtain baseline weight? Very simple, class, no? We weigh the patient on the same time every day, using the same clothes and using the same weighing scale. This way, class, our scaling or the way we get their the way we get their weight is very consistent. Okay, mo na siya ang key there, class, consistency. The reason why we get weight is this assesses fluid status, no? Weight, manggod class, weight or obtaining weight status. It is the best way to assess fluid volume and dehydration, no? So, we assess fluid status. Typically, manggod class, the reason why is statins, their common side effects are dehydration and weight loss, okay? And this one class, lagyan mo lang malaking star class, no? Administer at bedtime. When I say bedtime class, what you need to do is ask the patient when they sleep, no? Ask the patient when they sleep. And the reason why we give this at bedtime is because LDL synthesis occurs at night. Meaning to say, LDL is formed during sleep, no? LDL is formed during sleep, and we want to stop LDL formation when it is formed. That is why we give it during sleep, no? Another is we need to monitor for serum cholesterol. Normally, class, it is under or less than 200. I think I forgot now. Wait, sa ato sa search ang unit, no? Okay. Ayan, milligrams per deciliter, no? The overall cholesterol class normally is less than 200 milligrams per deciliter. That is normal. Okay, that is normal. For our LDL, LDL usually it should be normally normal pa niya. Normally our LDL normally it should be less than 100 milligrams per deciliter. And our HDL should be, our milligrams should be, our HDL should be greater than 60 milligrams per deciliter. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to monitor the serum cholesterol. We want to check for changes if the patient is improving or not, no, to check the effectiveness of the drug. And then encourage the patient to undergo strict diet and exercise program. Now, this is very important. I want to highlight exercise program specifically because most of the time when the patient is taking statins, they will ask you, they will tell you, sir or ma'am, I have been taking my statins for 3 months now. I've been taking my statins for 3 months now, and my cholesterol is still very high. What's the point? Is this drug not working? They will say something like that. Dili man mo na tambal, sir. No? What you need to do and what you need to tell them is this. Sir, even if you are taking this drug, you still need to undergo a strict diet and exercise program. Why? Because an exercise program in a diet, a strict diet will limit cholesterol, okay? While an exercise program, especially if you're exercising rather vigorously, will promote anaerobic respiration. And anaerobic respiration, if you remember from our discussion in angina, tends to burn fats for energy. So fats are burned. So meaning to say your fats are being utilized, decreasing the overall cholesterol level. And that is the reason why you still need to encourage the patient to undergo strict diet and exercise program. Now, before I continue with my next slide, I need to go on a short break, okay?